Hello there, Shawleggit. I'm the Hung from the band Titwinkle, and this is Food for Rock. You know, we live in an amazing time where you can discover thousands of songs and thousands of artists. I've recently discovered a band from Sweden called Royal Republic. They've been around since 2007, and they've quickly become one of my favorite bands. They're a little disco, a bit of pop, a bunch of rock. These are the same ingredients that Slick and I use in Titwinkle. Now the song I'm featuring today is called Baby off their fourth record, Weekend Man. I'm dressed in the proper attire to create this dish, which I call Cheese Nacho Baby Meatballs. It's time to cook. And let's begin. Well, let's get to know the band, or what other people call it, the ingredients. I mean, if this was a band, it'd probably be a funk band. Look how many ingredients we have here. I mean, this is a simple dish, but we do have quite a few things. We've got some components we're putting together. We have the meatballs, which will be one component. We have our mashed potato, and then we have our cheese sauce. So if we go with what we're going to put into the meatballs, we're going to start off with 450 grams of medium ground meat. And in the meatballs, we're going to have mushrooms. This is about 225 grams of mushrooms that we're going to put together. Jalapenos, and half of a sweet onion. Along with that, we're going to throw in an egg, and we're going to have some pepper, some Tex-Mex spice, some smoked paprika, and we're also going to throw in some Parmesan and some salt, some garlic powder, and some roasted garlic powder, all into our meatball. And then our mashed potato, we're going to boil a nice russet potato, and we're going to use some butter with that russet potato and some chives. And then we're going to make our creamy cheese sauce, which is going to be jalapeno cream cheese with some mild cheddar and some heavy cream. So join me in creating the dish. So our first step in the prep is to put the mixture together that we're going to add to the meatballs. And that's going to be our mushrooms, our onions, and our jalapenos. I've actually cut the jalapenos up into quarters and took out all the insides, so they're just nice and clean for you to put in there. We're going to start off with the mushrooms first because we're going to cook the mushrooms separately. We want to get a lot of the moisture out of the mushrooms when we're frying it. And once we got a good consistency of how much moisture has come out of the mushrooms, we're going to add a little olive oil, and then we're going to add the next bit of mixture, which is going to be the onions and the jalapeno. So I'm using a food processor because it'll chop it up really nice. If you don't have a food processor, then get a knife and cut it down as small as you can. You can try it that way as well. It's just a food processor, or you can use a blender maybe as well, just little bits at a time to try and get it to work, or one of those hand blenders. But this, you'll see, will make the mushrooms tiny. So we're going to start off by getting our mushrooms inside the food processor. And again, this is about 225 grams of mushroom that we're putting in there. Make sure we get them all in. And I'm just using cremini mushrooms. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but you could use button mushrooms, white mushrooms, whatever you like. I'm just happen to be using the cremini ones that were pre-sliced. All right, we're going to make a little bit of noise here. We're going to pulse it on and off. And that's good enough. We're going to show you the inside, and you can see that we've got a nice consistency on the mushrooms. So I'm going to take those mushrooms and take the blade out just for a second. Rest the blade right over there. And I'm going to put the mushrooms just inside this bowl. I might need a spoon to help me get the rest of this out. And don't be shy with getting that spoon in there and getting as much of this out, because we're going to use this container again for the onions and the jalapeno to get that in there. Now this looks like a lot, but it's going to render down as we cook it in the skillet. So there is our onion mixture. And I'm not worried about having some mushrooms in here already. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put our onions in here, along with our jalapenos. There we go. We got them all in there. And we're going to, again, pulse and get this smaller. And now I might just take the paddle here and just bring it in a little bit more. I want this to be a little more finely chopped, so it blends in nice with our mushrooms. So let's do that again. Let's get a little bit more. And you always want to take, if you have one of these at home, you always want to look and make sure that you've gotten everything. I saw there was a random jalapeno not getting chopped, and it looks like everything's good there. So I'm going to take out the blades again. We'll put this off to the side to be washed, and I'll show you what this looks like. So this is what you're looking for, something like that, right? Nicely chopped. So we're going to add this to our mushroom mix once we start to fry up the mushrooms. That'll be our next step. So we're going to get our pan to medium high, and then we're going to add our mushrooms. And you can start to hear that sizzle a little bit. And we're going to just cook this without anything in there, just the mushrooms. We want to get some of that moisture out. Get my Boba Fett spatula doing a good job here. Now this is going to take a few minutes. Don't be afraid to just let it render down. And once we see it rendering down, we're going to add the onions and the jalapeno mixture. And then we're going to start adding some spices and some oil. Now I don't know if you can see that, but it's starting to bubble up. We're getting a bunch of liquid coming off them. This is exactly what I want to see. I want to get them nice and brown. And I don't season yet. I want to get them brown, and then I'll add all the other things, and then I'll start to season this whole mixture. I actually season this mixture and then add it to the ground beef to create our meatballs. The trick though is to season it and then let this cool down a little bit before we add it to our ground beef, not ground meatballs. That's what they're going to become, is meatballs. And again, I keep saying this. This is not hard for anybody to do. I created this on my own, just thinking about how could I make a nice moist mushroom, and a nice moist meatball. And I thought if I added mushrooms in there as a soft texture, I thought it would add that nice softness that sometimes you get out of a Swedish meatball. However, this is not a Swedish meatball. This is not an Italian meatball. This is a Royal Republic meatball. And boys, if you're watching, you should try cooking this on the tour bus for your Love Cop tour, which is their newest album coming out this year. If you haven't had a chance, you should take a listen to that album. Some really great songs. I can't stop listening to Laser Love. I'm a sucker for a good power ballad, and you guys, I got to listen to that one, Laser Love. I pointed it out to Slick. What a great bass line you've got on there. I love the bass line. Great with the counter melody. So as you can see, this was huge when we first put it into the pan, and now it's reducing. It's becoming smaller, and lots of that liquid's coming out. We can see all the steam starting to work in over here. I guess when we get a bigger budget, we'll get a fan to actually start to suck all this out. So we're at a point almost where I'm going to add the onions. You can see this is kind of reduced by half. So just let it cook a little bit longer, and then I'll add the onions. So we've now got it. Not only do we have a golden brown, I'm turning down the heat a little bit to a medium. And we're starting to get a little toasty at the bottom here, but that's okay. Now we're going to add our mixture of onions, which is also going to add some more liquid, some more juice to this mixture. There we go. That looks good. Let's put this off to the side. And again, I'm going to incorporate this for a little bit, and then I'm going to start adding a few things. So let's cook this down a little bit. Oh, I wish you could smell this. You can actually smell the onions and the jalapenos with that nutty smell of the mushrooms. And remember, this is just part of the meatball, so this is going to help make that meatball moist and give it a kick with the jalapeno in there. She's Nacho Baby Meatballs, you know. And so, got to get a little bit of that kick in there. And jalapenos are not that spicy. However, you want to get, when you cut up your jalapeno, you want to make sure that you get all the seeds out in that white membrane. I recommend you wear gloves when you do that. I didn't show you guys me cutting them up, but that's what you should do. Maybe wear some gloves. You certainly don't want to touch your eyes after cutting up a jalapeno, or go to the bathroom without washing your hands, or you will be dancing to Laser Love a little bit differently if you do that, that's for sure. Okay, now look at this. This is kind of incorporated. I use that word a lot. We got everything kind of in its place. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. Right? I'm going to guess maybe a couple of tablespoons right there. A couple of tablespoons of olive oil. I want to add a pinch of salt. There's a pinch of salt right there. I want to add some black pepper. Get that black pepper in there, just like that. This is some smoked paprika. Get some smoked paprika in there. Again, it's probably a teaspoon of that. I want to get some of that Tex-Mex spice. And so I'm putting in probably 2 tablespoons. Again, I say probably because I just kind of look at it, and you guys can experiment at home as well. We don't have to be super precise with this type of stuff. You got to season it to taste. This is why I'm not a baker. A baker, you have to be scientific about it. You got to make sure you do everything exactly to proportion, or your food doesn't turn out. But this, you know, you use your eyes, your smell, and flavor it. I'm going to put about about a teaspoon of garlic powder, and some of that red pepper flake. About a teaspoon of that as well. And now we're gonna, again, mix all this up. And you gotta remember, we don't have to cook this super through, because this is gonna go into the meatball mixture, which is the ground beef. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cook that in an oven. So this will be cooked a little bit longer within the meatball itself. So I just wanna get this cooking for a little bit, get those flavors all together. Like I've always said, like a great song. I mean, look, food is music for your stomach. That's the way I look at it. Just like music is food for your soul. So, and if you ever meet someone who doesn't like music, don't trust them. I'm kidding. There might be some people out there who don't like. I've never met a person who doesn't like music, but I'm sure they exist. All right. Now hopefully you can see this. Again, very well incorporated. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to let this sit. We're going to let this sit for a few minutes until it cools down. I want it to not to be completely cool, but cool enough that when I handle it with my gloved hands, that it's not going to feel hot, just warm. And I'm going to put that in with ground beef mixture. But while this is cooling down, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep our potato. And that's what we're going to do next. So while we wait for our mushroom mixture to cool down, is a perfect time for us to peel our potato and get that ready so it can be boiled and then made into mash. So I get myself a peeler and a vessel for me to put the peels in. And this is pretty simple stuff. I'm imagining that a lot of people here have already used a peeler. If you haven't, I highly recommend you buy a peeler. This is the only way to peel potatoes, for me anyway. I would never use a knife myself. Maybe some of you are skilled out there and you can use a knife, but for me, very simple to use this peeler. And you can see how easy it is, and it's less of a mess. You just do this, put it right into a bowl. I'm using my hands just to keep this, I'm using gloves on my hands just to keep it a little more sanitary and easier to handle. And sometimes you find these, little brown spots there. I try to get most of that out. I don't like it. It's not going to hurt you, but, So, I'm making mashed potato for one. So you can see there's some of the starches already coming out. Mashed potato for one. That's not something people typically do. Usually you'll make more than one potato for your family. But I'm only making the meal for me and Slick today. Don't need much more than this for our cheese nacho baby meatball recipe. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cube this up a little bit. Cut this into cubes so that I can put it into the water. Ooh. I was a naughty boy. Look, I missed a little bit at the end here. I'm going to cut that off. Having a little dirty potato. Don't want that. Not for this recipe anyway. You can always have dirty mash some other time. But I'm just going to cut this into cubes so it just cooks a little easier when we put it into the water. So, like pasta, I like to salt the water for my mash. Now you can also roast the potato. That's another way of doing this. Take a little bit longer, but putting into the water should take me maybe a half hour of boiling. It's usually what I do, about 30 minutes, and let it get nice and soft. And then I'm going to show you the secret to amazing mashed potatoes. And there's a device that I have that you should, sorry, going out of frame there, a device that I have that you should absolutely purchase, and we'll talk about it when we get ready to actually do the mashing of the potato. But this is a bit of our prep work. So again, let's get that potato into the water, just like that. Oh, nice splashing everywhere. Look at that. It's okay. And then I'm going to salt some of that water, a little bit of salt, just like that. And now our potatoes are prepped and ready to be cooked. I'm not going to cook them right away because I want to kind of have this meal kind of set up together with the actual meatballs. And the meatballs are going to take 20 to 30 minutes based on the type of oven you use. All right, so time to get our star of the show ready. Getting ready to combine all the ingredients we prepped. So we've got our mixture that we've put together with mushrooms, onions, and jalapenos. So we're going to start by adding to our bowl here our ground beef. So this is a medium ground beef. I'm going to add half a cup of Parmesan cheese, grated Parmesan cheese, 1 egg, and then finally our mixture. Let's get that all in there. Now, you could use a spatula to try and get this all together, but I find that using your hands is the best way to get this all together. So I'm going to get my gloved hands in there, and we're just going to start mixing this up. So I don't know if you can see that, but look at that. We're getting it all mixed up together. Everything, the egg, the cheese, the mushrooms, the onions, the jalapeno. And we want it very well mixed together so it's pretty consistent throughout the whole ground beef. I don't want any chunks of anything that's too much in one place. So it's not going to take a lot to do this. I'm making a bit of a mess on the table, but that's what cooking is about. Sometimes you make a mess, and that's why you have a bass player to clean it up. Does a lousy job, though, cleaning up after me. But he's a good buddy. What can I say? Slick and I have been together for many, many years. And we love making music. I love to cook and he likes to eat it. So that's what you call a friend. So there we go. This is about what you want. You want that mixed up. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to make 2-ounce meatballs and we're going to lay it down on some parchment paper and then get ready to bake. So we're now going to actually form the meatballs. I have this great tool here. I know I saw Slick borrow this. I don't know what he was using it for, but this is actually a meatball former and it's going to make about 2-ounce meatballs. So we're going to take it in, we're going to scoop some meat, and you're going to see that it comes out the side. You just take it out like this. And then what you want to do is just drop it into your hand and then roll it around a little bit and we'll put it down right there. So we're going to continue to do this. Make sure we get enough meat in there. Again, you can see that we just scoop it out, put it into your gloved hand. You're going to roll it, put it right there. And this is our assembly for all our meatballs. So what we'll do is we'll continue doing this and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's complete. As you can see, our mixture made up 16 meatballs. You want to lie it in a cooking tray with some parchment paper and give it a little bit of space in between each meatball. And we're going to preheat an oven to 400 degrees. And depending on what kind of oven you have, whether you have a convection oven or a regular oven, this will take anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes to cook. Really, you want to get the meatballs to an internal temperature at least 150 degrees. So we're going to go put this in the oven and we'll check in on them when the 20-minute mark comes and make sure that they're at the right temperature. And then next we're going to start prepping our mashed potato. So I'm going to boil the potatoes for about 20 to 30 minutes till they're fork tender. And when we come back from that, I'm going to show you how I mash the potatoes with this magic tool. Well, it's not magic, but I'll explain what it is. And if you use the same tool, you're going to make absolutely fantastic potato mash that everybody will love. We'll see you when it's done. So I said I was going to show you the secret to making awesome mashed potatoes. Here it is. This is the secret. You might be thinking, what is that contraption? This is called a ricer. And you're going to put the potato inside the ricer, just like this. And you're going to see exactly what it does. So we're going to take a couple of pieces of the potato and just start putting it in the ricer. Should actually use a spoon. Probably be a little bit better to grab a spoon and do this. And so you can see, there we go. We've got the mash in there. I'm going to put it here, and look. Let's see if we can do the magic here and get that ricer working. I'm telling you, folks, your potato will taste very creamy if you use a ricer. That's the secret to the great mashed potato. Besides getting the right potato, like a Yukon Gold or a russet, this is a russet, a little more starchy. Great potatoes to use. And again, cooked it for about 20 minutes till it was nice and tender on the fork. Here we go. Look, watch the ricer go. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? I think it's awesome. And then we're gonna just finish up the rest of these potatoes. In fact, let's see if I can just take the potato right from here. Right in. There we go. That's the rest of the potato. And let's just get that right in there. And that is satisfying, what can I tell you? There we go. So we got that in there. I'll put this away. And I'll put this right over here. Now, to this mixture, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter and just about a tablespoon of cream just to start. And this is heavy cream. That's all I'm going to do. And actually, I'm going to start mixing it all up. Let's mix it all up. And you can see it's not going to take a lot to mix it up. Get that butter melted in there. And I want to add just a little bit of pepper probably. That's quite a... And you want to do too much here because then it can turn into a paste. So we're going to do that and add some chives. So cut some chives. So, you know, my favorite band, one of my favorite bands, the Bee Gees. So let's do some chive talking here, or chive cutting. I'll add some chives. And a little bit more. That looks good. Let's add a little black pepper. Just a pinch of black pepper, like that. I don't need to salt it because I got quite a bit of butter in there, without 2 tablespoons. In fact, I think I've probably put a bit too much butter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the rest of this butter out without taking too much of the potato. We'll just put that off to the side. And there's our mixture. And that's as much as you want to go. And I think our meatballs are done, so I'm going to go grab them and show you what they look like. So as you can see, our meatballs are ready. They were in the oven, a convection oven, for 20 minutes, and they reach a temperature of 160. You want to make sure they're at least 150. And they're nice and golden. You're going to let them sit and rest just for a little bit as we assemble everything. So we're going to make our cheese sauce next, because we got to get some nacho cheese in there. So we're going to make a very simple cheese sauce. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plate our meatballs, our cheese nacho meatballs, and our potato, and we'll be ready to enjoy the meal. So we're going to make a very simple cheese sauce. We're going to start off with a medium heat in a pan, and I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of heavy cream again. So this is 35% cream, and you can see it's reacting right away. And then I've got about a cup of store-bought cream cheese, jalapeno cream cheese. And I'm going to start mixing that all in together. Actually, I'm going to bring the heat down to medium low. And I just want to get this to a consistency that looks kind of like a sauce. Right now it's a little thick, but we'll see. We might need to add a little more cream. And then we're going to add a little bit of mild cheddar as well. And just a little pepper. Maybe add a little bit of Tex-Mex spice on there. So this is looking okay. Still a little thick. So I'm going to add a little more cream. Just add a little more cream. And again, I want it to kind of look like a sauce, and this is an easy way of doing this. I know that there's ways of doing this by making a roux, which is cooking with flour and oil and butter. This is kind of a home cook, really quick. Already got the cheese halfway there. Why not go all the way by making it with some cream, and I'm going to reduce it even a little bit more. As you can see, I'm getting a thickness. It's a little too thick for me still. So I'm going to add the rest of this cream in here and just keep cooking until I get the consistency I want. You know, the other thing that's important to do is to taste and see what it tastes like. So I'm going to put the fork in there, just have a taste. That's nice and spicy. I just want to add a little more cheddar, just some mild cheddar cheese, and you add just a little bit at a time. You don't want to put a lot in there. And I'm going to add just a little bit of that Tex-Mex, because this is going to be our spicy nacho cheese. And again, I'm just going to drizzle this on top of our meatball. And this is what I'm looking for. See that? I want to have this like that. All right, so when we come back, we're gonna plate the dish. So I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with our plating. I decided to kind of play off the pearl necklace and the cheese nacho baby play with the meatballs. So we're gonna assemble the meatball with some potato and then drizzle it with some cheese. So let's start off with a potato, and I actually found this interesting baby ice cream scoop. So we're going to take our potato and I'm going to scoop it up, and I'm just going to put it right there. There's one. And then I'm going to take a meatball and put it right there. And let's do that again. Potato. Meatball. Potato. Come on. Meatball. Potato. Meatball. And what do you think? Do we have room for another potato? I think we have room for one more potato. There we go. Potato. And there's sort of the essence of our meal. And then let's just drizzle it with a little bit of this cheesy sauce. A little bit for each one. Ooh, there's a big gob right there. Let's put a little bit more over here. So the cheese sauce is a little thicker than maybe I would want, but I can tell you this actually tastes delicious. The sauce, I tried it already, but I haven't tried the whole meal together. We're gonna have to try and incorporate this whole meal. And be right back. I gotta get this set up. Oh yeah, we're going to show off our album artwork, and we're gonna get ready to bite in. Well, as it is tradition here at Food for Rock, we want to listen to the song before we take a bite. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my boom Bach.
Hello. And for our Swedish cousins, Sean's legit.
What are you wearing?
Well, you said we're a headband.
I said watch the baby video and mimic what they're wearing. Did you watch the video?
No, I did not.
That's not what they're wearing. Do you have the song ready to go?
Naturally.
All right, let's at least hear the song.
Thank you for purchasing the Girthy 5000, the gentleman's enhancement pump.
That's not the song. And what's a Girthy 5000?
It is a calisthenics apparatus for training volume, specifically targeting the nethers.
Huh. Listen, folks. We will put a link to the song in the description below. And to my Swedish fans, forget about what he just said. Have a great evening. See you next time. Visit us at Titwinkle.com for a copy of the recipe.